If you've been following this series, you'll know that I was planning at this stage to move on to show you how to use telemetry to transfer information from an expert advisor on the virtual private server to your client computer. But instead I've decided to go straight into creating an expert advisor step by step. Also in this tutorial, I'm not using any object-oriented techniques. This is a very simple expert advisor, and I plan then to use object-oriented techniques to make that a better, more improved and more functional expert advisor in future tutorials. But I thought at this stage I would stay with the very simple expert advisor. So when I say simple, I think there are three basic types of expert advisor that I'm talking about. There's the set and forget, where you determine when to enter a trade, set take profit and stop loss targets, and that's the end of the work for the expert advisor, and it'll move on to the next trade after that. And these are set and forget because once those trades have been placed, they'll either reach the take profit or the stop loss and exit the market at that point. The next level up in complexity would be the entry and exit, where there's not only a signal to enter, and those trades that you enter may also have a take profit and stop loss, but there is also a signal to indicate when to exit those trades, and this could be a reversal signal of some kind. And then there are the more complex managed, and managed could mean anything from entering additional positions to something as simple as a trailing stop on positions. So for today, we're just staying with the set and forget simple type of expert advisor, and I've chosen a very simple strategy for this. So the strategy is a triple moving average, a fast, a medium and a slow moving average. I'll be using simple moving averages. They have a fixed take profit and stop loss level that you enter at the input stage. The strategy is to buy or sell on the first bar after all three of the moving averages align, and by align I mean for a buy trade, the fast moving average is above the medium, which is above the slow. And when I say the first bar where they align, that would mean that the bar just before that wasn't true. And for a sell, of course, the fast moving average is below the medium, and that is below the slow. Now, a disclaimer here. I'm setting this strategy only for the purpose of showing how to develop the EA. This is not a strategy that I intend for live trading, and I would warn you against using this strategy in live trading. Now, as a step-by-step tutorial, I'm going to go through every stage of building this. So here I am with the Metatrader editor open, experts, and I have my usual Orchard folder here. First thing I'm going to do is create a new folder because I like to keep each expert advisor in its own folder for neatness. Now I'm going to use the wizard to create the shell of the expert advisor. So here is the outline of the expert advisor created by the wizard. I'm going to reformat this a little because I don't like the way that these templates are created. This has nothing to do with the operation of the expert advisor, no changes to code anywhere, just for visibility purposes. So I'm just going to pause the video for a moment while I do that. So all I've done here is change the format of the initial comment block. I've added an additional warning that this should not be used for live trading. This is only for demonstration purposes. And I like inside my expert advisors to duplicate the strategy, at least in a summary. So I've just typed in a short extract of the summary of the strategy here. Now the first thing we need to do is to have some inputs. So I've got a fast moving average, a medium moving average, and a slow moving average. Then I have take profit and stop loss. So let's create the inputs for these. So this is just the first of the moving averages. I'm giving it a default value of 5. I'm going to make the default values on these 5, 8 and 13. Nothing important about those. I've just chosen some Fibonacci numbers. And because I'm using moving averages, I like to give an option to set the moving average method. So here I'm just defaulting to simple moving average. So I'm going to duplicate this line, or these two lines now, for the other two moving averages. So those are the inputs for all three of the moving averages. Now I want to input take profit and stop loss. Now I'm going to input these in pips because that's more universal when you're transferring between different symbols. So a pip being either the fourth decimal place for most currencies or second decimal place for yen. Typically it's also the second decimal place for commodities, but it could be whatever the broker defines. Now, most brokers now will offer 5 decimal places for currencies or 3 for yen. So I'm going to input these number of pips as a decimal to allow you to enter fractions of a pip. Now there are 3 more inputs that I'm going to have here. I need to have an order size, so I like to let the user set that. So I'm going to add an input for order size, and then there's going to be a trade comment and a magic number. The magic number, of course, is used to ensure that trades created by this expert advisor can be unique compared to trades made by another expert advisor, and that's why I like to allow the user to enter that number just in case there happen to be 2 expert advisors running that use the same number, or even if you're running the same expert advisor with different settings, you might want to use a different number on each of those. At this point, I just run a compile just to make sure I haven't got any syntax errors. I'll do this regularly as we go, just to make sure I haven't made any simple typing errors. So now we move on to the Init section. And again, I think this should only be used for demo purposes, so I'm just going to use a simple statement here to exit if this is not running on a demo account. So here I'm just saying if this is not a demo account, then I'm going to return the Init failed value, and that will cause the expert advisor to terminate immediately. Now, the first thing that we should do in the expert advisor is to validate that the inputs provided make sense and they're useful. It's possible because these are inputs of int. I could have entered negative numbers for the MA periods or the stop loss and take profit. So we want to do some validation of that. I typically don't put all of that validation inside the onInit. I will call a separate function to do that because I like to keep these functions short in the code. So let me create a validate inputs function first, and I'll just scroll to the bottom to do that. Now the first thing I want to validate is the moving average periods, and I need to validate that the fast moving average period is less than the medium period is less than the slow period. So if the test fails, so if the fast periods are greater than or equal to the medium periods, or the medium is greater than or equal to the slow periods, I'm just printing a message in the log, and then by returning input parameters incorrect, the init function can test that and exit, and that will again terminate the EA. So the next test I want to do is that the moving average periods must not only be in sequence, but they should all be greater than 0. Now I want to do a simple test on the take profit and stop loss because they should not be 0. In real life, you might want to make this an even higher number because setting a take profit or stop loss too close to the entry price could cause an error, but I'm just going to test for 0 at this point. I forgot there, I need to at least have a return out. Right, so those are all the input parameters. I'll go back to my init function. Now this is a very simple expert advisor, and I only have the validate inputs here. So this is not necessarily, it's probably overkill to do this here, but if I had a more complex sequence where I might be doing multiple actions, then I would test the result after each of these calls, because once I get a result that is not valid, then I should be terminating the expert advisor at that point. So I'm just testing immediately after calling validate inputs to see if the result is succeeded or not, and if it's not, then I'm going to return that result. There's one other thing I want to do in the validate inputs. Remember that this stop loss and take profit have been captured in pips. I'm going to convert those to a double or a price value now, so that I don't need to worry about it later when this expert advisor is running. To do that, I'm going to first create two more global variables to hold the take profit and stop loss values. Now, I have covered in a separate video some standard library functions that I use to convert pips into price values. So I'm just going to paste those in here, and I'll add a reference to that other video if you want to see the logic behind those functions. And these are my two functions, calculating the pip size and then converting pips to price. Now that I have those, I can use them, and I'm going to put that conversion inside the validate inputs. I have nothing to worry about in the Init for this expert advisor because I don't have anything to clean up. So we can move into the OnTick. Now I only want to run this once per bar because I'm comparing to see when the moving averages line up, and that will only happen as a bar completes, so there's no point in testing this every tick. I'm going to create a very simple function just to test if I have a new bar first. So here I'm just maintaining a static value of current time, and as soon as the time for the current bar, bar 0, is not the same as that current time, then I know that I've opened a new bar. I will be returning a result then of true, and once that happens I'll also move the time for the current bar into current time, so this will loop through again later and pick up the next time the time changes. So now that I have that function, I can go back to the OnTick. So if this is not a new bar, I'll simply return at that point. Now, I don't want to put the logic for my trading condition in here, the same reason that I didn't want to put logic inside the initialization. I'm going to create a filter function that tells me when to trade and which direction to trade. So let me scroll down again and create that. Now I'm calling this function TradeFilter, and it's an integer value. For the time being, I'm just going to return a 1 if there is an indication for a buy trade, a -1 for a sell trade, and 0 if there's no trade indication. So here I'm calculating two moving averages, FMA1 and FMA2. So that's the fast moving average from bar 1 and bar 2, because I want to compare bar 1, which is the bar just closed, with the bar just before that. Now I'm going to do the same here for the medium and the slow moving averages. I'm just going to copy this and edit those lines to create the other two. So now I have the first and second bar moving averages for fast, medium and slow. Now I want to compare those to determine if I have a filter condition or not. Now these two conditions, if the fast moving average 1 is greater than the medium moving average and the medium moving average is greater than the slow moving average, and if in the bar before, bar 2, the fast moving average is not greater than, so less than or equal, or the medium moving average is not greater than the slow, as in less than or equal, then I'm going to return a 1, and the sell condition is just the opposite of that. If the fast moving average is less than the medium, medium's less than the slow, and that was not true for bar number 2, and then I'm returning a -1. And if neither of those conditions are met, then the code will just fall through here and return 0. Now I just want to apply that trade filter inside the OnTick. And here I'm going to use a switch statement and test the function. So if the trade filter function has returned a 1, then I'm going to open a new trade of type buy. And if the trade filter function has returned a -1, I'm going to open a trade of order type sell. Now I haven't written the open trade function yet, but also there's no default here. I don't need a default because I really don't want to do anything else, so I can allow the switch function to simply fall through. Now let's create the open trade function. So here I'm taking an input of type enum order type, and this is the order type that I passed in, either order type buy or order type sell. Now I need to calculate the price where I'm going to be opening the trade, because prices for buy and sell are different, and then I'm going to need to calculate the actual stop loss price and take profit price, which I'll do using the take profit and stop loss pips. For a buy order type, the open price would be ask. I'm opening it at market price, so the ask is the price where we would open a buy trade. The take profit then is the open price plus the take profit value calculated earlier. For stop loss, I'm calculating this from the close price, and the close price for a buy trade is the bid price. So I'm calculating the stop loss here as bid minus stop loss. Now I'll just duplicate this and make some modifications for the sell trade. I don't need to test the condition because there is only buy or sell. So here all I've done, replace the ask with bid for the entry price, change the sign of the plus to minus for take profit and the minus to a plus for the stop loss, and use the starting point for the stop loss to ask. Now I can simply call the function to place that order. So here I'm sending an order for the current symbol using the order type passed into this function. This is the order size that we added in the input statements. The open price calculated above. I'm using a slippage of 0, which means I'm not going to handle slippage at all. The stop loss price calculated, take profit price calculated, the comment that we input, and the magic number that we input. and that's all we need for the open trade function. And that's almost everything we need. I want to add one more code line, because if we go to the isNewBar function, this starts with a date time current time of 0, which is a standard initialization. But if I start this expert advisor in the middle of a bar, this would be true. So I just want to clear that current bar out from this, and I'm just going to do it by calling the isNewBar function once inside the init. I don't need the response from isNewBar, but that will set the current time to time 0. That should be everything. That's compiled. Let's just see if I've got everything working here. We'll switch across to the chart, and I'll set this up in the strategy tester. Alright, I have the strategy tester set to go. I have it in visual mode. I'm running this through April 2020, from 1st of April to the 30th of April. I'm using GBP USD, 1 hour time frame, and a spread of 10 points or 1 pip. So I will just start that in visual mode so that we can see that it actually runs. Pause it for a moment while I remove the grid. And I will also add those 3 moving averages to the screen. So you can see here the slow moving average white is below the medium moving average, is slightly below the, actually we're looking at this bar, the bar that's just closed in here. So slow is below the medium, is below the fast, and this is placed a buy trade, has a take profit and a stop loss. If we let that run on a little bit, and we can see that it's placing buy and sell trades. This is, as I said, not an example of a strategy, but how to write the expert advisor. So that expert advisor is now complete and works. You can take this, the code is available for download. Again, do not use this for live trading. This is not a good strategy for live trading, but you can use this to develop your own strategies and write simple expert advisors. In future tutorials in this series, I'm going to be modifying this to add exit criteria, more conditions, and I'm going to start to incorporate some of the object-oriented methods that we have to make this cleaner and more modular, so that it's easier to extend this then to create more of your own expert advisors. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them, and likes are always welcome. If you want to catch up on the rest of these videos, I have added links below to point to the other videos in the series, and if you'd like to know when more of these videos are released, then click the subscribe button and click the bell icon to receive a notification. I hope these are useful to you, and thank you for watching.